If you are engaged right now or you know someone who is, I need you to listen to me just for a couple minutes. I have sat across so many different couples over the years in my counseling office and have seen a wide range of different relationships. The ones who are thriving even 10 years in, just trying to work on some things, tweak a little bit of things, and then the ones that are barely hanging on. So I want to talk to you before you ever get to that situation and give you some things that are really important to consider before you even get married. This is not a list of things that you might talk about in premarital counseling, like how many kids do you want and talking about finances, although those are very important topics to discuss before you get married. I want to talk about some other things that are really important before you walk down that aisle. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a licensed therapist and a virtual coach, and I love getting to work with couples and help them connect better, to communicate easier, and overall just have a healthier relationship. Before we get into it, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe so that you get all of the videos that are coming out each week. Okay, the first thing that I want to mention is that you are marrying both the good and the bad of each other, right? When you're dating, sometimes it can feel easier to just like put on the best show and really be patient with one another, and maybe a lot of difficult conversations don't come up, and so things can feel a little bit easier when you're dating and engaged. But life can also obviously throw really hard curveballs at you, especially the longer that you're together, and so it's just really important that you consider what are the both positive and negative things about this other person, and are they things that I'm okay with, and are they things that if they got worse or if I uncovered, other things, because sometimes I'll say hard situations bring out things that you didn't even maybe know existed inside of you. Certain reactions, how you handle hard life things, and so it's just really important to consider that you are marrying the good and the bad. The person that you're marrying, you're going to see sides of them that you've never seen before, and maybe they've never even seen before. Not because they're hiding or being fake, but because life just hasn't brought it out yet. Like maybe you haven't seen them sick with the flu for 5 days straight and had to also take care of them. Maybe you haven't seen them after a job loss or when a family member passes away. You haven't seen them up at 2 a.m. completely sleep deprived with a newborn. Or maybe when a friend gets promoted before they did in their job and they're really heartbroken about it, right? There's just things in life that you don't know how the other person is going to respond or handle things until you're in the moment. And so it's just really important to consider, do these things that will be thrown our way, do I know that this person still has a solid value system and kind of foundation that will be able to still guide you and be a compass for you both as you navigate those things together? And even think about how do you handle conflict now in your relationship when you're dating or engaged? Do you feel like you're able to talk through conflict and work through it together? Because if not, that is a huge thing that I would really work on before going ahead and taking that next step and getting married. I feel like couples have an easier time navigating harder stuff if they realize that they're going to see different versions of their spouse along the years. And so if you can go into a marriage relationship having that expectation and having that mindset ready, I think it helps when there are things that life throws at you or you see a new side of your spouse that you've never seen before, because you're not as shocked because you knew that there were going to be different versions that you would encounter. You can even get a little bit curious and ask questions of each other now to talk about how you handled tricky situations in the past. You can even ask about their upbringing if you haven't already. How was certain stress or grief or loss or sadness, how was that dealt with in their childhood growing up? What was modeled for them? And then as an adult now, how do they typically handle it? Hopefully you have already picked up on some of those things, but if you haven't, I think that that's a great thing to consider before marriage. The second thing I want you to keep in mind is that you will have to choose to love them every single day, day after day. Okay, duh. But I kind of think our culture has created this facade that if relationships were meant to be, that they would be easy. And that when you fall in love with somebody, it's just like rainbows and sprinkles and butterflies all the time, forever and ever. And I know that sometimes people talk about the honeymoon stage ends, but there's a real thing that can happen and shift the longer that you've been together, where it doesn't all just feel like rainbows anymore. And you've walked through hard things, and what used to be cute, maybe it feels annoying now. And so it's really important to realize that love is not just a feeling. It is a choice that you will be giving them and your relationship every single day. You can still be soulmates and realize that you're also going to have to put in effort and work on things. Love is comprised of 1,000 small decisions every single day, that you're turning towards them when they ask a question or they need help, that you care about their needs, that you practice being selfless. I heard someone say marriage is two selfish people together learning how to be selfless, and that is so true. I've been married 8 years now, and I can definitely say that I have seen a lot of selfish tendencies come out that just get exposed, like I was talking about earlier, when you're in different seasons of life in your marriage. And so if you can realize, like, okay, the goal is to be selfless, it is to put my spouse first, it is to serve our family and our relationship, I think that will set you up for the most success. There's something that Dr. Gottman, he is a renowned marriage researcher. He has kind of like coined this phrase, small things often. And basically what that means is, yes, the big dates or trips or gestures, they mean a lot. They're really a beneficial thing, but not as much as those small things. When you get their coffee cup out for them, when you refill the trash liner after they took out the trash even though they forgot about it, when you pack their lunch for them, when you grab something at the grocery store because you know that they're out but they haven't even put it on the list, when you're out and you're grabbing coffee and they ask if you want something, like all of those things are small things often. It is turning towards and really loving and intentionally choosing each other day in and day out. If you're a faith-based couple, then you can even reflect on 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter. It talks about how love is patient and kind, not self-seeking. Honestly, so many things that are really hard because we're just imperfect humans, but it's this really beautiful goal that we can set in our mind to focus on as we love our spouse like Jesus loves us and loves the church. Okay, the third thing that I want you to pay attention to if you are engaged is, how do you fight? And can you repair fights? I know that I alluded to that a little bit before, but if for some reason you feel like you guys have never had a fight, I would really actually encourage that you talk about something that not necessarily could bring up a fight, but a serious conversation where you might see things not eye to eye and see if you guys are able to talk through it. I think it's really important because you're not always going to see eye to eye. And maybe you're like, oh yeah, I know we argue all the time. I definitely understand that. Honestly, my husband and I argued so much when we were dating. Like, we just didn't know how to communicate in a healthy way. And it always just felt like personal attacks from each other. We didn't know how to communicate kindly. And so I would really encourage, as much as possible, get really good at communication. Get good at owning up to when you mess up, apologizing quickly, learning the effective steps of repairing and apologizing in a way that is like actually accurate and will really help that person feel that you understood what you did wrong and you're wanting to change things, you're remorseful, like all of those different pieces. It's just so important. There's a lot that goes into communication, and you're always going to be on this journey of like growing and healing together. But the couples that do better, I guess I would say, or struggle a little bit less, might be a better way to phrase it, are the couples that have figured out how to navigate conflict as soon as possible. There's a couple things that I want you to consider. If there's a disagreement or an argument, what is happening? Are you shutting down? Are they shutting down? Are either of you raising your voices? Are either of you walking away? Is anybody throwing something? Does sarcasm creep up? Does the other person just like want to leave the room? Do they stop talking and refuse to talk about it ever again? On the other side, does one of you, or do you personally like not stop talking about something or bring up something from the past that you both thought you'd worked through? Like, what happens and what are potential red flags for when you communicate that need to be worked on? If you have already noticed some potential not great things within your conflict, or as I was listing things out, you were like, oh, that sounds like us. It's just something to take into consideration so that you can start to work on things now, whether that's in premarital counseling or just couples counseling. You definitely do not need to be married for 15 years and have all of this baggage to go to couples counseling. So many couples come work with me in their dating relationship or when they're engaged, and it is honestly so beautiful to see people already acting out this commitment to one another before they've actually tied the knot. And if you don't think that you necessarily need something as formal or structured as counseling, but you're like, we could still use a little bit of extra help when it comes to resolving conflict and doing it smoother and faster, definitely make sure that you grab a copy of the conflict first aid kit that is in the description, because it is literally like your cheat sheet. It's just this simple little packet that I've put together for you that helps you figure out where you're at in this cycle. There's like a literal flow chart where you can just kind of pinpoint exactly where you're at and then follow the rest of the steps to get out of this conflict or negative cycle that you're stuck in. The fourth thing I would say is that I think it's really important that as much effort as you put into your wedding day, you put that same amount of effort into your relationship as well, into growing and healing and working through the conflict and all the other things, bettering your relationship with their family, whatever the things are for your relationship. But it's true, right? Weddings and planning and all of the meetings and budgeting and all of that stuff takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And I think sometimes people put more focus on that than they do what the actual point of the wedding is. And that's the healthy relationship that's about to commit to forever together, right? And so I would just really encourage you, as you're planning this beautiful special day, it is just one day and your marriage is forever. That's the intention, right? And so I would really encourage you to put that much effort and time and even money, not necessarily that much, but like, don't see it as, oh, we can't invest in our relationship financially in counseling or in a resource or whatever because we're just pouring it all into our wedding day. I might push back a little bit and ask you to shift some of those priorities, and so that after the wedding day, when it's also fun and you have those pictures back, you're also able to really enjoy it, and it's not something that you look back on with sadness because you're like, wow, our marriage is so not helping right now, we're just arguing all the time. Like, I don't want that for you guys. If you haven't had the hard conversations, or if you haven't gone to couples counseling or premarital counseling yet, I really encourage you to, because I do think it's important to still talk about the finances and the kids and where you want to live and just like all kinds of different things, your spiritual background, the things that you value, traveling, like how you see your life, and making sure that it really aligns and works well together. The fifth thing that I want to highlight is that your spouse is not a project. Please don't marry your significant other right now with the goal that you are going to fix them. Sometimes people get married because they think that once that commitment has made, that some things that bother them or some red flags that they see are going to shift because it's just going to be different. You're going to be married, so it's going to be different. And that is not always the case. You can't bank on something like that. You're not marrying the potential of who they are, you're marrying who they are right now. And yes, we talked about how people change as they encounter different things in life. But I think there's a difference between banking on certain things changing and watching the change just happen organically because of different things that life throws at you. Marriage is not like a personality transplant. It's more like a magnifying glass where it really highlights and brings things into focus and clarity, what's working really well and what's not. And that includes character traits and, how people act and how they are. So if there's things that don't sit well with you, that bother you, that you're concerned about, don't just bury it. Work on it now. You are doing yourself and them a huge favor by dealing with it now. And on the flip side, your fiance isn't marrying you to fix you either. Please hear me when I say all of these things about working on yourself and working on your spouse and paying attention to everything. Don't hear that as like, wow, I've got to be this perfect person before I get married, because that's unrealistic and that's not the expectation that you need to have for yourself. But just as much as you might want things in your fiance to get better or different, you also have to take a really honest self-check on you and see what are things that you need to contribute to growing and healing and bettering as well, because you're part of the puzzle piece. The next thing that I would really encourage, and it's kind of maybe a strange one to talk about, but it's that you are called to leave your family and cleave to your spouse. Now that doesn't mean you ditch your family, doesn't mean you don't talk to them forever, but what it means is that your spouse becomes the person that you talk to about all the things, the good, the bad, the ugly. You don't run to your mom or your dad at first to ask her opinion on something before you talk with your spouse. Like, they are your first point of contact for any situation. And I know that for some of you that might be like a duh, but sometimes it's not. I've seen relationships where the mom feels more comfortable talking to her mom, and so she does that all the time, and that can make the husband really feel like his input isn't valued, or that he's not an emotionally safe person to talk things through, which is not the case necessarily. And so I just really encourage you guys to use each other as the sounding board, as your confidant, and really put that priority first. And if you're worried about that when it comes to boundaries or just certain people in your family or your soon-to-be in-laws family, I would really encourage a conversation about that as well, just so that you can make sure that you've thought through what it's going to look like, who are you maybe concerned about, what's important to you, what's important to them, just all of those things. And the last thing as we end this video is that grace is the name of the game. You're going to mess up. Your spouse is going to mess up. You're going to have really frustrating days. You're going to be so annoyed by them. They're going to be so annoyed by you. And also it's going to be so beautiful and so fun. I love marriage. I think that's why I just love working with couples. Just to give you a little bit of background, in the beginning of our marriage, we really struggled with communication. Like I thought we had figured it out and then we didn't. Lots of different life things came at us that was so difficult and so painful, but we grew. Faith is a really big part of our life, and so we really clung to the Lord and asked for wisdom and had good mentors and just like healed and grew and all of the beautiful things of life together. But just keep in mind that you're gonna have to give yourself and your spouse a lot of grace, because this is just life. It's so messy, but what a beautiful gift that you guys get to do this together, that you're choosing each other every single day. Again, if you're watching this and you're engaged, I just want you to know how excited I am for you. It is such a fun season. I pray so many blessings on you and your season of engagement and your marriage, and know that these are some really important things to keep in mind as you're stepping into this really new, exciting season of life. If you and your fiance are wanting to apply some of the things that I talked about, work more on communication, and you'd like to work with me, I would love to come alongside of you in this journey and help you out. So go ahead and reach out with the description below, and we can talk about what works for you guys, or grab another guide or resource that I have. I have a lot of different things, as well as the conflict first aid kit that I was mentioning before. But I'm so glad that you are here, that you watched this. Subscribe so that you can get all of the other tips and tricks that are coming out to continue to help build your relationship stronger and stronger every single day. Again, thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.